What should you do when your hair is falling out and no one is offering answers to why? Or what can be done to stop the shed? Today's guest will share her story and the steps she took by changing her diet and improving her health to grow her hair back. Hello, thank you for listening to Thyroid Hair Loss Connection podcast, a science-based, honest, candid conversation about how your thyroid affects your hair. You will learn practical solutions to hair growth, healing your thyroid, and balancing hormones with holistic nutrition approach and the latest treatments. Your hosts, me, Nataliia Sanzo, a registered dietitian, aka Nashville thyroid expert, and Kimberly Vaughn, a board-certified trichologist, hair loss specialist, and coach. To stay up to date on the latest topics, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We also cannot do this without you. Send us a question to the link below and tune in each week for the answers. Now, let's head to the show.
Nataliia, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited about today's episode and having our guest on.
I know. We are so fortunate to have such amazing responses to this podcast. I mean, we're only in season 2 and, which started out as such a long process journey for you and I both, right? Independently, bringing it together. Even though it's hard and we talk about, the preparation, but it's just so rewarding and so fulfilling. And I'm so glad we've done this. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to thank our listeners and especially the guests that come on this podcast, take their time out of their day. And I'm really excited to hear Sarah's story and her journey with hair loss and everything. So
yeah.
Let's get on it.
That's it. Well, Sarah, that's your cue. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to our listeners. Sarah is an accomplished writer and journalist and has been for over 3 decades. She's also, the reason that she's visiting us today is because she's a hair loss survivor. And she's going to share a story about what happened over 6 months ago and why she became a client coming into HPI. And also, most importantly, listeners, I think she's going to leave you with a couple of really important tips that if you're starting to experience hair loss, such as her particular situation, what she can advise for you to do if you're going through this at this time. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. If you remember, I'm the one that kind of chased after you. I wanted to ask if I could help. Because when you have something as sensitive as hair loss and you don't know what to do and it's very kind of emotional and overwhelming, and then you find answers and not just answers, but like a whole football team and cheerleading squad. That's what your office was to me. So it's like I want to tell everybody I see that there is hope and there is, there are solutions and that's why I wanted to participate, to kind of encourage other people. I wish I had someone do that for me. And actually, your office did that for me. So I wanted to do anything I could to kind of help somebody else to get the results I have.
Well, and, to make sure you tell our listeners you're not paid for this episode. But
I was in your office getting a treatment and I chased you down because I try to tell everybody because, it's like not just my hair, but my overall health has improved a lot from going to your office. And so it's like when I told one of my girlfriends, it's almost like a religious conversion. When you get an answer, you just want to tell everybody that you see. And as a matter of fact, I wrote one of my friends that she's seen my results and she tried to get similar treatment in Atlanta and couldn't find it and had some bad interactions with some different other people that were pushing products or pushing surgery and weren't sensitive and were actually rude. So she actually drives from Atlanta here to go to your clinic. And that's a huge testament, I think, to what you guys do. And I told her it's a safe landing space. And that's what she really wanted.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you so much. So take our listener back to why you called us. What happened and what was going on with you?
I am an extreme case, both in my extreme shedding as well as my pretty extreme turnaround, I would say. It happened in the last summer. I was having a lot of hair loss. And if you look at your forehead, I was having those dips that men start to get, on the sides of your forehead, or the forehead, but on the sides, where it was starting to recess. That had been happening for probably a couple of years. And I thought, well, I guess that's normal with aging. And then I started noticing a little thinning on top, but nothing too bad, but I wasn't happy with it, but nothing extreme enough to seek treatment. Then by last year, it was kind of a confluence of things, like a perfect storm. I had stress at work, stress at home. My father has dementia. I was doing a pretty strict diet and was losing a lot of weight pretty quickly. And then I started 16-hour intermittent fasting. And then basically my hair started coming out, shedding so severely that I couldn't even run my fingers through my hair. I have pretty long, thick hair normally. So I couldn't even run my fingers through my hair without hair coming out. And my friend took me to the store when I was in her car for like 30 minutes. When I got out, there was like 10 hairs on her seat. It's kind of embarrassing. And I had to try to, pick that up. Nobody wants that in their car. So it was that noticeable. And my hairstylist estimates I lost 25% of my hair in a matter of probably 6 months. So it was extreme shedding. And then you could start to see it on top. It was very noticeable. And at the same time, I started craving ice, and I was crunching on ice a lot. And my niece noticed it at a family gathering. And she suggested I go check my iron. So I was trying to debate, do I go to the dermatologist? Do I go to general practitioner? Where do I start? But then I just did some research, and you were not my first call. My first call was to someone in Franklin, and it was a disastrous experience. The person was incredibly rude and wanted $2,000 before I stepped foot in the office. And it was a man, no offense to the men out there, but he was just very condescending. And so obviously I hung up the phone and did not go there. So then I kept doing research. And what I saw with HPI is that you guys had a wide arsenal. You had many, many things you could try. So if one thing didn't work, you had something else, and you weren't pushing surgery. So that appealed to me because I wanted someone that it seems to me that you had a lot more in your toolbox than the dermatologist, because this is your specialty. And so that's why my next stop was I called your office, and Adrienne was like an angel on the phone. She was like a warm hug. And I could tell she cared, and she acted like she was on Team Sarah. She was on my team. And that was an absolute turnaround from the other calls. And the same thing with my friend in Atlanta, that Adrienne and Nicole and everybody in your office, total turnaround from what we had experienced with other offices. And I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been embarrassed, but I was. I thought, this is a man problem. I was a little embarrassed and to go to your office and have all these women, powerful women that are so caring, like women that hug you and that show you their patches of baldness. I mean, they're not embarrassed. They're just saying, look, we're all in this together. And so I found that very, very comforting. And even with you, Kimberly, there's a lot of tests we needed to do to figure out what was going on with my health. But you didn't say, let's wait a month. You said, there's certain things I could do now. I could do certain supplements, making sure I'm getting proper nutrition, stop the 16-hour fasting, making sure I'm getting enough protein. So what I loved is that you didn't make me wait a month. You said, let's be proactive and let's just get started. And that made me feel like today I can leave and I can do something and I can get this started and get this turned around.
Sarah, so for the listener's perspective, let's help them understand. So when you first started sharing, your story goes back really a couple of years, and you were starting to see your temples recede slightly. And so when you said that's kind of a man's thing, really what we need our listener to understand is that you truly were experiencing male pattern thinning, which is predominantly a genetic predisposed form of hair loss. And as you so rightfully stated, is that, it wasn't the worst because you felt that maybe that was just part of your genetics and you had to deal with it. But then several years later, bringing us up to just perhaps 6-8 months ago, you started seeing a lot more shedding, what we consider telogen effluvium or acute effluvium shedding, to where the hair was actually coming out in handfuls. And you really didn't know where to go. So I think it's real important for the listener to understand that we want to make sure that we treat and acknowledge the most aggressive hair issue at the time. And so when we talked about being proactive and considering the discussion about some supplementation and starting you with some labs and an epigenetic test, it's real important for us to move forward and to try to help you see and seek some comfort, right? And seeing that shedding start to slow down. I know Nataliia had a similar issue when she experienced her COVID last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, mine was related to my thyroid. I have autoimmune thyroid disease called Hashimoto's. So Hashimoto's, change of medication, my thyroid medication, and COVID kind of hit me all at once. Oh, and I have to add the seasonal hair loss because it happened somewhere in September. So those three factors hit me real hard. That's how I found Kimberly about, 2 years ago now at this point.
That's
and
right.
We've been partners in crime since then.
That's right. So, Sarah, now bring us to, so you came to HPI and we performed the epigenetic test and started kind of working on the diet. And then tell us a little bit about what changes you made to your diet, because you had also mentioned that you were doing 16-hour fasting as well.
I did change a lot of things. I cut that back to 12 hours, of fasting. And what I realized, as I was not getting enough protein when I was doing the 16-hour fasting. So I've incorporated, I've eggs in my diet as well as protein supplements. And I try to make sure I get plant protein and chicken, that kind of thing. But I also, basically, I would say I did a multi-prong attack. There was diet, supplements, and I found out that I do have a genetic condition and I needed the laser caps. So I do that, and I do shampoos. So I kind of, what I would like to say is if you really want a quick turnaround, you have to commit. You have to put it as a priority. And so initially, Kimberly was suggesting smoothies. And I'm like, Kimberly, I don't want to do that. It's not my routine. But I had to suck it up. And I invested in a Vitamix. I got a really good mixer. Because if you really want long-lasting changes, and I wanted fast changes. I wasn't ready to. I wanted my hair back ASAP. So I understood that meant a commitment on my part. And so I did that, and I do daily protein shakes. I put a protein shake in there and add like spinach or kale. And then I make sure to add the things that my body is deficient in that your test showed, which is vitamin D, zinc, vitamin B, and I'm low in iron. And so I make sure to put all of that in there. And then I get a multivitamin. You guys have that because it's more tailored to women. So I use that. And I don't like to swallow a lot of capsules. So I crack open the capsule and put it in my shake. And I also do amino acids because I was also low in that. And so I do that every day. And I mean, ladies, it's a win-win. I have better skin. I sleep better. I feel better. And my hair is thicker than it has been since my 20s. And that is in 7 months. I now have hair thicker than since my 20s. And I mean, I call it the bounce. If I put my hand up on top of my head, I can bounce it. And there's like there's enough hair to bounce. That sounds crazy, but I don't even know how long it's been since I could do that because my hair was so thin on top. I mean, people wouldn't notice. They always think I have thick hair, but in the last 8 months, you could notice I looked kind of maybe sick, I would say. I looked like I was not doing well. And yes, the vanity, I wanted my hair back, but the really big benefit is that I'm a healthier person now.
Absolutely, Sarah. Sarah, we all love the bounce, right? You mentioned that your hair is bouncing. But let's talk about for our listeners, just a little bit dive deeper. You mentioned 3 major components that led to your hair loss, right? You mentioned stress, you mentioned extreme dieting, and intermittent fasting. So of course, stress, cortisol, low or high cortisol, we know it can lead to hair loss. So we have to address that with lifestyle changes, right? There's not a pill or a smoothie you can drink to get that done. So you address that on your part. Now, extreme dieting, we know that the faster you lose the weight and the more calories you cut, the more protein you cut, the more vitamins and minerals you're missing, like our biotin, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin A, and iron, essential fatty acids. So it's so important. You can lose weight, you can still be on the diet, but you have to make sure that you plan accordingly and make sure you're not crash dieting and you're not losing weight too much too fast, right? And then the third part was intermittent fasting. Now, I'm a proponent of intermittent fasting, but you have to do it right. And some people confuse intermittent fasting with calorie restricted diet. Yes, it is much harder. Those two are two different things, because you can do intermittent fasting 16-18 split and still get enough calories during the day and not lose the weight. And people do it for different reasons, to let your GI tract rest, to eliminate all the waste product and everything. But for most people, I agree with Kimberly, it's very hard to get enough protein, vitamins and minerals, and calories in an 8-hour eating period. So for you to recognize that, and for Kimberly to note that and recognize that, and for you guys to switch to only 12-hour fasting window to make sure that you're getting all that stuff in. And I love the idea of smoothies because it's such an easy on-the-go meal replacements that you can do, and it's much easier to eat fruits and vegetables in a smoothie, because not a lot of us can eat, 3 handfuls of kale. But when you put that kale in the smoothie and you hide it, you add your protein powder, especially if it's flavored, and you add, for example, the best way to hide kale is to add a few cubes of frozen pineapple, because acidity in pineapple kind of kills that the strong taste that kale or celery has. So when you hide those vegetables in the smoothie, it's much easier to ingest a larger amount of vitamins and minerals at once. So good job on listening to Kimberly and implementing all those approaches.
Well, and then I think the other thing, Sarah, is, we offer suggestions for everyone. And boy, you are a star pupil, because in addition to the smoothies, the juicer that you've purchased also is an amazing way just to blend some carrots and celeries and apples, right? And lemon. And then you can drink that throughout the course of the day. And I know that when I first talked to you, and I had said, you had said, boy, I'm really having trouble with my weight. And I find that the only thing that's really helped me has been this intermittent fasting, the 16 hours, and this is something we haven't even spoke about, but share with our listeners. So what's happened with your diet now, meaning weight gain, weight loss, since you've changed the 16-hour intermittent fasting to 12 and you've added the smoothies and the supplements?
Well, what happened initially is I just quit the extreme diet. And I kind of quit losing weight, but I kind of maintained where I was. And I wasn't really I'm not really where I want to be long term, but I wanted to stop the extreme shedding. And I knew if I didn't do that quickly, I could lose hair that I might not ever get back. So that, and I was also, of course, worried about my health because I knew I was iron deficient and deficient in so many other things. I did not know my family medical history. So through testing that you guys ordered, I got the biggest snapshot of my health that I've ever had. And that's one thing that's kind of disturbing, that you don't get that from your general practitioner. You don't get that from other doctors. And so it's kind of sad that it took me losing hair to understand what my body needs. And it's not just, the vanity of it. The condition, I have the MF gene, the mutation, which Kimberly, you probably can say it better than I can. But basically it means my body doesn't absorb certain things, including amino acids, vitamin B complex. And I didn't even understand the difference between B12 and B complex. Right. And that's where I was. I was the elementary level student, and I needed to do research. And so I've had to do several things to get that up to where it needs to be, including B12 and B complex liquids, sublingual delivery, dropping it under your tongue and leaving it for 30 seconds. I do B12 shots sometimes, and also an IV once a month, so that I can get that in control. And basically, had I not figured this out, it could lead to stroke. It could lead to heart disease, birth defects for ladies who are, wanting to get pregnant. It can lead to so many significant health problems. But the way our healthcare system is, they wait for you to have a significant event. It's not enough on prevention. So this was an investment. I had to spend, I had to commit to the money to get all the testing and to keep this routine up. But my health is the most important thing. So I decided it was worth it, and it's going to pay off in the long run. So I feel like not only did you help me get my hair back, but you gave me the tools to understand how to live my healthiest life. So that's the silver lining that I didn't even know I needed.
Well, and that's wonderful information for our listeners, because what you were referring to, the MF gene, so MTHFR is a mutation, and it is a genetic predisposed mutation. And so what happens, as you so rightfully described, is that your body does not absorb and process folate or your B vitamins, and can definitely cause very severe birth defects. But it's overlooked many times with women with hair loss. And the jury's out. I have shared this in another episode that, 20 years ago, we said this was a really big contributing factor. Now, it's a little bit of a different science. However, I've been doing this for long enough that I believe that it doesn't ever hurt to look under the covers, whether you like it or not. And so keeping that MTHFR test on our platform is really important to me. And we do see improvement. And as you said earlier, you have an extreme case. You had extreme shedding because you were such a good student, and you did jump in whole body into what we had recommended, from the supplementation to the diet changes with the epigenetic look-see of what's going on with the restrictions that you should try to avoid, changing the intermittent fasting, then also moving forward with the microneedling and the clinic, as well as the infusions, as well as using your laser cap, professional photo light therapy at home on a regular basis. I mean, we couldn't ask for something better. But here we are 8 months from the very first visit that you had. How would you describe what you feel about your hair at this point in a little more detail than the bounce? We got that part.
Yeah, I would say to me, it's like a miracle. I never, ever even knew I could dream to have this much more hair back. I was just hoping to get some of the hair I had lost last year. What has happened is I've gotten hair that I've lost over I'm in my 50s. I now have hair that I haven't had since my 20s. So this is incredible. It's basically I always have been self-conscious about my large forehead. It doesn't look as large because I have hair growth on the sides of my head. I have my hairline is improved. So I actually look like I can wear my hair back and not be embarrassed. And so I've gotten every bit of that 25% hair loss that my hairstylist saw. Plus, I mean, she was floored when she saw. As a matter of fact, the person next to me in the chair next to me was getting hair extensions, and she leaned over and said, "Oh, I love your thick hair." And I started laughing. I said, "If you only knew what I have been through in the last 6 months." And I told her because I want everyone to know I'm no longer embarrassed. I want everybody to know so that women don't have to suffer. There's no reason to be embarrassed, and there is help.
Sarah, it's funny that you mentioned hair extensions, because I think that's what I told Kimberly when I found her, because, you mentioned that it is an investment. It's a financial investment long-term, but it's your health. It's the most important thing. And I told Kimberly, you know what, I'm going to invest because I think it's cheaper than hair extensions. Because that's exactly what I thought when I was losing my hair. I considered getting hair extensions, and my hair is very long, as like almost to my waist. So my hair extensions quote was very expensive, and you had to maintain it every month anyway. So that's what I told Kimberly. I think it's cheaper than hair extensions.
And it's certainly better for your hair.
Yes, and it's long term. I mean,
yes.
You're getting to the root cause of your hair loss instead of clipping those things on the root of your already weakened hair, which exacerbate hair loss even more. So I think we're all on the same page.
Oh, ladies, couldn't have better. I mean, you've said it so perfectly. Well, so Sarah, we're coming to the end of our episode, and I know the listeners are waiting to hear your 3 tips for them on if they are starting to see either genetic thinning or some aggressive telogen effluvium shed. What should they do? How should they get and hopefully have some of the same success that you've had?
I mean, the first thing I do is tell my friends who've asked me, who've seen my transformation, I encourage them to find the right help. I mean, that you need to get the testing. You have to diagnose the problem. And obviously, I recommend you guys, if I'm getting people from Georgia coming to you, basically because I know you do this battery of tests. My friend tried to get her doctor in Atlanta to do the test, and he was hesitant. So, I mean, she's like, well, screw that. I'm just going to drive to Nashville and come to HPI. Because I told her we have to have a full understanding of our health if we are going to fix the problem. I came to you out of vanity, but I'm leaving with a game plan and the power to actually improve my skin, my hair, my sleep, my anxiety, my overall health, my whole total well-being. So it is incredible. And so I would encourage people to go and get the test that they need so that they can understand what my friend had different problems. You tested my friend and she had different problems than me. So you need to go and get individualized tests so that you understand where your deficiencies are. Then obviously supplements to address the deficiencies, and that supplements in diets, and including like liquid vitamins and other kind of things. You guide people through how to fix that. Then I would also say that you just have to commit. It has to be a daily commitment. It's every day. Every day I'm doing things for my body that is helping my hair and my health. It can't just be something that you do as a fad. It has to be a commitment. And then you will see results and you're going to feel your best. And then you're going to want to tell everybody like I wanted to.
And we do. That's why we have this podcast. So we have a platform to share stories like yours. And, I've gone through hair loss. Kimberly has thyroid disorder. So we, like you said, we're all in the same boat. We're experiencing the same problems with different symptoms, different root causes. And that's why, like you said, a comprehensive approach to your problem is the key here. So, Sarah, thank you so much again for sharing your story and giving our listeners actionable steps that they can take today to improve their hair loss. And listeners, please don't hesitate contact Kimberly and I so we can get all the necessary blood work done, get you on that healing diet, treatment plan, and supplements.
And as for Sarah, be as she is and follow the instructions and the tips that she offered, and then you can make it a great hair day too. Bye-bye.